Yo, what are you doing in my house? How did you get... Did someone let you in?
I didn't like your last video.
You talking about the video that I made about how to make or like tweak your own builds?
Yes, and this time you're gonna do it for me.
Dude, I really just... I don't have time to do that.
Did it sound like I asked whether you wanted to or not? You're going to do it.
Yo, put that thing away, dude. What?
Nah, dude.
Alright, dude, just chill. Put that thing away. 4 Path of Exile builds, the best ones.
No, I need ones that are able to finish the Atlas.
4 best Path of Exile builds that can finish the Atlas. Dude, just please, just put that thing. Quickly before we start, there are a few things that I want to go over. First and foremost, this list of builds is just my opinion on what I think are the best builds in one way or another, such as in fun, ease of playing, or they can help you clear the Atlas. It isn't meant to be a definitive, this is the best build ever list, so keep that in mind. Also, if you want to see more of my content, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and like this video if it helped you out. This lets me know what kind of content you want to see in the future. I also stream on Twitch in the evenings at twitch.tv/bigducks, so follow me over there if you want to know when I go live. Also, every build mentioned here has a Path of Building pastebin link in the description, including a full skill tree, skills, and suggested items for the build. If you aren't familiar with Path of Building, it's an awesome tool that allows you to plan out your character before you make it. The link is in the description, so go download it. I do, however, recommend doing your own research as well on the builds in this video. If you don't know how to do that, I do have another video called Whether or Not Making Your Own Path of Exile build is a Waste of Time, which can help you on making or tweaking your own build. Also, some of the builds here are on standard with random gear and characters I threw together just for the purpose of making this video. The background footage may not be reflective of how powerful the build actually can be when properly geared, so keep that in mind. If you're watching this video after the Metamorph League is concluded, take this info with a grain of salt, as things may have changed. Currently, the meta that we are facing involves avoiding the one-shot as much as possible. The best way to do this, besides mitigation, is to keep moving. The builds listed here are solely focused on being able to do their damage while moving, or to be able to move flexibly in between attacks as you complete the maps or kill bosses. I'll be giving general ratings for these builds from 1 to 5 in the areas of defensives, damage, single target and clear speed are taken into account here, gearing, and how much fun the build actually is to play. The other thing is, unbeknownst to our friend over there, I'm just using the other video to make these builds. That's it. There's no special thing about it. It sucks to be him.
Dude, did I hear you say something?
No, dude. I'm just making you the guides. Don't worry. I'm making you the builds. Just. Starting off, we have the Hand of Wisdom in Action Juggernaut. This is a build that I originally played in the Synthesis League as a Molten Strike variant. However, in current time, Molten Strike has been pretty heavily nerfed, both mechanically and just number-wise. It's not to say you couldn't still use Molten Strike, but I decided to revamp this build a bit and switch to something that would work a bit better in the current meta. Morph. God, that was terrible. This is done through Cyclone. It allows you to move constantly while doing damage, which allows you to avoid mechanics and one-shots. The purpose of this build is to stack as much intelligence as possible to scale our weapon damage and energy shield, and also to become immune to as many mechanics as we possibly can while maintaining a decent, effective health pool. Going down the list, this build is immune to chaos damage through CI, takes 25% less elemental damage due to our chest piece Incandescent Heart converting that damage taken to chaos, which we are immune to, immunity to ignite and shock from our belt Cyclopean Coil, immunity to freeze, chill, stun, and any kind of slow due to the Juggernaut node Unstoppable, by the way. Of note, this works on things such as Elder Slow as well. Huge amounts of physical mitigation through armor and endurance charges, as well as Immortal Call, and Enfeeble as a last line of defense on cast when damage taken for bosses and mobs that can get through our huge defenses. An optional addition. If you balance a Wise Oak for resist, you can become almost immune to elemental damage while also gaining a bunch of damage at the same time. You can obtain roughly 6k energy shield quite easily with this build, and the upper limit is even higher with maxed out jewels and rare items. The damage isn't insane, as this is mainly a tank build, but it is still quite respectable with some investment. Rating this build, I would say that the defensives gets a solid 5. This is a tank build that is immune to almost every mechanic in the game. It can do anything. There's not much more to say here. Damage-wise, this build's going to get a 2.5 as the damage of the build isn't massive without good investment, and the clear speed isn't really the greatest due to being melee. It is a tank build after all. This is not a solo self-found friendly build, as many uniques are required. However, the gear isn't insanely expensive as not a ton of people are playing this build, so most of the uniques are cheap and the few that aren't are generally under 1 exalt, so I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. A quick note on the fun section. Remember, this is just my opinion, so don't rage at me too hard in the comments about this, okay? Being able to ignore most mechanics while you spin to win is honestly pretty relaxing. You don't die often, you do acceptable damage, and you move constantly while killing, and you only have to press one button, and for someone that's super lazy like me, that's a 5 out of 5. The next one on this list is important, because I feel that most people underestimate how solid this Ascendancy really is, and how many different abilities and playstyles it can accommodate. You can do Ignite-based characters with Burning Arrow, which is the example given here. You can do melee-based variants with Void Forge, or you can play basically any elemental spell in the game and have pretty good results. Now I know what you're thinking when you hear me say golems.
I don't like golem builds. I want to do the damage myself. Don't tell me to play a golem build.
Okay dude, chill with the sweaty rage typing in the comments for a minute, just so I can explain this. The Golementalist that I'm displaying here uses the golems for their buffs, not as the main source of damage. You use at minimum one of each of the non-carrion golems and scale their buffs to give you exceptionally high stats. From the golems, you gain accuracy and critical strike chance, physical damage mitigation, attack and cast speed, increased damage, and flat life regen. And these aren't small amounts of these stats either, they scale quite well. The ratings on this build will be indicative of the example given, which is Burning Arrow, so keep that in mind. Defensives gets a 4 out of 5. Between high regen, effective health pool, and mitigation while also being a ranged character, this build is pretty tanky. However, it does still die to one-shots, metamorphs, and you have to stop to attack occasionally. For damage, this build gets a 4 out of 5. The clear is screen-wide while also proliferating, and you can even do so in extra life and less damage taken T16s. However, the mod Enemies Avoid Elemental Ailments makes you almost 100% useless, so you can't do that mod at all. And on the topic of boss damage, it's okay with Vol Burning Arrow, but this is probably the reason that it doesn't get a 5 out of 5 for damage. Gearing. Once again, this is not an SSF friendly build. There's many uniques required. Some of them, depending on the route that you choose, can be super expensive as well. But there are also quite a few budget options, so I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5. Honestly, one of the more enjoyable builds that I've played this league. It's got screen-wide clear, and with the burn flask, everything lights up green. Lots of little tanky boys that tank stuff for you, and high overall stats, so it's gonna get a 4 out of 5 for me. So I'm going to be upfront with you here, the only reason this build is on this list is due to how popular it is and the overall power and flexibility of mines. I don't personally enjoy the mine playstyle, and the rating on fun is going to reflect that, so be warned. Mines recently got a revamp that I don't fully understand. They basically made them traps with more steps that reserves mana and has like a little mechanic when you chain them together they do more damage, but getting beyond GGG's fascination with changing things, mines are still a very powerful option in this league because all of the bosses that matter have a spawn timer. You drop a whole bunch of mines right underneath their feet, and then when they spawn, between your skitterbots getting them detonated first and then you doing a detonation afterwards, you basically one-shot anything you come across. And the clear is okay too. You can also choose between basically any spell in the game or a few of the pre-made mine spells. At the time of this recording, the most popular option for damage is Pyroclast Mine, but there's also Ball Lightning and Arc. All of these are good options, and there's even more beyond that. As for the ratings, defensives for this build are mostly built-in. You don't really have to invest anything to get them. The Saboteur gains immunity to shock and ignite through its Ascendancy, as well as massive regen upon dropping mines, and blinding of all nearby enemies while taking less damage from those blinded enemies. Beyond this, it is quite easy to scale effective HP on this build, so in combination with being ranged, you get a pretty safe build. It's a 4 out of 5. This is one of those builds that just does absolutely disgusting amount of damage when properly geared, but on anything that's not bosses, it can be a little tough to pull off, and it does require some setup. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. The gear that this build requires to do boss melting levels of damage can be pretty insane, but you can get away with budget gear and clear most of the game with it, so for gearing, I'm going to give this build a 3 out of 5. So, I warned you before, honestly, I absolutely hate mines and I think it's one of the most boring playstyles in the game. You can hate me all you want for this, but this is getting a 0 out of 5. Alright, if you made it here, you are in luck. I would say overall this is the most powerful build out of everything listed here, and it's absolutely insane. Summoners are just in an absolutely ridiculous spot right now, and I honestly do expect them to be nerfed. If that nerf has already happened, take everything here with a grain of salt. So the Baron Summoner is based off of the helmet with the same name. The goal of this build is to stack as much strength as possible, which half of is transferred to your minions. It also gives you additional zombies per 300 strength, and 2% leech from those zombies at 1000 strength. This, along with a few other uniques, allows you to build a very mechanically strong character. You have the option of going CI if you would like to but don't have to. It is something I recommend. You are immune to stuns due to Unwavering Stance if you'd like to take it. You have a very high effective health pool even if you decide to go CI due to the chess piece Joffrey's Sanctuary, as well as the Shaper's Touch gloves. If you don't go CI, that health pool is potentially even higher. You have an army of zombies that tank everything for you while leeching damage. You can also do a variant of the build where you summon skeletons. That's the one that's listed here. These skeletons do insane amounts of damage, and Vol Summon Skeletons gives you a massive meat shield army to block anything even potentially getting near you. For Spectres, you run a Carnage Chieftain and a Host Chieftain for power and frenzy charges. These can be found in Act 7, and you can run a Spectre that applies a curse of your choice as well. I personally use a Diabolist from the Upper Prison in Act 1 for Enfeeble. Also, the Necromancer Ascendancy is insanely loaded with stats. It's got tons of resistance, physical damage mitigation, recovery rate, and a unique defensive ability that shields you and all of your minions. As for the ratings, this build is packed with defensives, and as long as you play safely, you'll almost never die when you're properly geared, because you don't have to worry about doing the damage yourself, just run around and dodge stuff. 5 out of 5. Damage in this build is also off of the charts. It has amazing single target, awesome clear, and the burst potential with Vol Summon Skeletons is pretty massive. It's easily a 5 out of 5. However, this is where the ratings are gonna kinda fall a little bit. As of the making of this video, it is very, very expensive to scale this build into the endgame, and the score is going to reflect that. This build needs close to 5 or 6 jewels that are 100 chaos or more as of this recording. Now you don't absolutely need those jewels, but they do make up a significant amount of the shrink that you can stack towards the endgame, so keep that in mind. And because of that, gearing is going to get a 2 out of 5 for me, and that's a generous 2 out of 5. As for fun, this is going to be up to you. It's a summon build, so there's not a ton of control or interaction. However, with the addition of skeletons being summonable on demand, it gives you quite a few buttons to press between skeletons, Convocation, Offerings, Bone Shield, and a few more. You can slot in a Castwall Channeling, Cyclone, Desecrate, Flesh Offering if you like, which will give you something else to do, but I find the standard build enjoyable. However, managing your zombies, specters, and Animate Guardian can be insanely tedious, especially when they die, and thus that lowers the fun for me a little bit, so I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. And that's going to be it. If you have a build that you think I should try out, make sure to leave a comment with the description of it, and maybe I'll give it a shot on stream this league. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask me here in the comments or on my Discord, which you can find linked in the description. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate all the support I've gotten recently, and I really am working towards getting more guides out. If you have suggestions on what kind of guides you'd like to see, then leave a comment and let me know. Until then, have fun wrecking the Atlas, and I'll see you next time.